What's up guys, Ryan here from Inspire Marketing. Now in this video today we're going to go over some of my favourite ways to get that buttery smooth footage without spending an absolute fortune. So enough of the rambling on, let's get straight to it and have a look at some of my favourite things to do. Okay, so before we jump in and have a look at some equipment that you can buy to obviously aid getting them smooth shots, there's a few tips I wanted to run over with you when you're shooting handheld just with your camera that I always use when I'm on a shoot. So you've got your camera here. Now I always hold the camera with two hands. Now you'd be surprised, a lot of people just tend to point and shoot, move around like this, which is fine depending on kind of what you're comfortable with. However, I always use two hands. So I would have my right hand here and my left hand just on the lens like that. Now I always bring the camera into my body. Just when it's out like this, obviously a lot more can go wrong and you're gonna get shaky footage. When you're bringing it into here, so you've got your elbows down on your sides and pull the camera close to your body, you've got a lot more flexibility and it's going to be a lot smoother. Also, if you do have a flip out screen like this camera, you can obviously tilt it up. So when you've got it close to your body down here, to get that smoother footage, you can always see on the screen what your camera is looking at to ensure that everything is in focus. Also, when it's closer, if you do need to adjust the focus or the zoom, it's going to be a lot easier to do it than when it's out here and you're trying to adjust it there. So remember, two hands on the camera and in close. So moving along now to some equipment that obviously you can buy. Now I don't know if you managed to see my previous video, I reviewed the Xeon Smooth Q gimbal. I've got it just here with me. Now obviously if you're looking to spend the money and buy some equipment to obviously up your production game, a gimbal is probably one of the first things you should buy. Whether it is this one, I would probably say no, just simply because you're going to be using your phone with this, and if you're shooting a video for a client and it's paid work, or you're wanting to get paid work, chances are you're going to have a DSLR camera, so pretty pointless really. But of course it depends what you're using it for. I'm not going to go too in depth about it because I've already done a video on it. Visit the channel to have a look at that and let me know what you think. But yes, obviously a gimbal is a great buy. If you do have a DSLR camera, you probably want to go with the Xeon Crane or something like the Ronin M. Or if you want to go all out, obviously you can now get the Ronin 2 by DJI that's just come out. However, the base model starts at about $5,000, so obviously a massive expense, but it depends what you're going to be doing, whether you've got that money to invest in it. If you do, go for it, it's going to up that production massively. One bit of equipment that I always take with me on a shoot is a slider. Now I've got a Coolertron slider. I'm not exactly sure on the size, but I will put a link in the description below if you want to go and check it out. It's made by carbon fibre, so nice and light. Now if you don't know what a slider is or you've never seen one before, it's pretty self-explanatory. You pop your camera on there. Obviously you need a ball head on there as well. I do have one made by Yunteng. I bought it on Amazon. Nice and cheap, does the job. You don't really need to spend a fortune on stuff like that. So again, link in the description. Now, as you can see, it pretty much does what it says on the tin. It slides. Now, obviously with the ball head on, you're going to have a lot more control with that handle, so you can get a nice smooth movement, and it really does help. Now, obviously you can get motorized sliders. They cost an absolute fortune, so I just couldn't really see the point. Obviously when you're editing and whatever it is, Premiere Pro or Final Cut. You can add stabilization as well. If you're shooting in kind of 60 frames, 120 or whatever, you can slow it down as well, it'll be even smoother. Now, you do have some small, well, tiny legs on here which kind of flip out like that. Now, I never really use these, it depends what you're shooting. If I'm, say, doing a video at a property for a real estate agent and I want a nice shot on a kitchen counter, I might use the legs. However, I always use my slider with a tripod. Very, very rare I will use it without, which we're going to jump into in a minute. But right now I'm going to show you some shots that were done on a slider of a promotional video I did for a coffee shop. Now the shots you're about to see, they haven't been slowed down in post. This is without adding any stabilization on. I did put some on for the final video, I just want to put that out there. But this is just completely raw footage straight from the camera. So let's have a look and we'll come back and see how it works with the tripod. They were the shots using the slider, and every single one of them shots was done on the tripod. Now, this is the one I have for using the slider. I'm not going to get all of this in the frame because it's an absolute beast of a tripod. Now, I have 3 different tripods. So one is the heavy duty, like I said, for the slider. You want something stable because if you don't, you're still going to get a shake from the slider. So you need something nice and heavy, and you can even get some kind of sandbags or some weights as well, just to add that little bit more. I have kind of a mid-range one as well for if I'm doing photography. I would pop my DSLR on that tripod. There's no point using it on this because it's just way too over the top. And then I also have a really cheap, crappy tripod really, that if I'm going away and I want a nice time lapse and I don't really want to kind of worry about anything, I'll take that tripod with me. But like I said, you kind of want maybe 2-3 different tripods. You don't want one huge heavy duty one that you're gonna have to use all of the time if you want a nice steady shot or a photo, because lugging this around, I only do it when it's for a client. I would never take this away with me, it's just way too much. So there's some of my top tips on how to get smoother footage. So like I said, with the camera you want 2 hands and in close to your body. You can look at a gimbal, a slider, and also your tripods as well, which will work with all of your equipment hopefully. Hope you enjoyed this video. Please drop a like below. Check out my last video, the Xeon Smooth Q review, and I'll see you a week today for our next video.